Hey there. First of a toast. Toast to Michael. Now, which Michael, you might ask? Because I'm sorry to say this, but there's too many fucking Michaels in the vinyl community. Like, right? How many Normans are there? All right. So, Michael, who is in the Southwest, whose channel is Poetry on Plastic. I consider him a friend, even though we've only really conversed once in a group situation with the Four Corners. I'm involved with the Four Corners with Michael, and in this case, Michael. Three Michaels and a Norman. It's not fair. It's not a fair fight. We did a classical videos several months ago, and Michael now is having a 5,000 subscriber contest. So I'm going to answer these questions for Michael, Poetry on Plastic, and this is a good thing. Now, there's a link below. If you don't know Michael, I would say 75% of his videos are classical based. He's into punk, he's into some avant-garde metal stuff, other types of music too, new wave. So he's not just a classical, but I think of all the vinyl community channels, he does show a lot of classical and he does an amazing job at it. I've learned so much from his channel, seriously. It's worth checking out. Even you rock and roll mooks that don't go anywhere near classical, go check it out. He is an oboe player and he plays in, I believe, the Phoenix Symphony Orchestra. Of course, now they're on a hiatus because obvious reasons in the pandemic, and he plays the oboe. Now, Michael, I don't know if you know this, but George Martin, the producer of the Beatles, primary instrument was the oboe. You probably know it because I think oboe, it's like oboe folklore. You all know all the oboe players. So that's my introduction. There's a link below. Please subscribe if you don't. I bet you most of you do already subscribe to him. But even if you're not into classical music, check it out because he does some fantastic videos. So there are 6 questions for his 5,000 plus contest, and here we go. First question is, show a record by the first band you saw live. I'm probably the oldest person who's going to answer this question. So in 1965, the first concert I saw south of San Francisco in a little town called Redwood City, California, which is about 30 minutes, not even that, less than that, 20 minutes, depending how fast you're driving on I-101 past SFO Airport, is the Circle Star Theater, was the Circle Star Theater. It's a theater in the round and the stage rotates. It's long gone now, but I saw the Dave Clark 5. First concert I ever saw. I was going to say the Byrds, but the Byrds was 1967 in San Jose. So that was 2 years after this. I went with my friend's parents and I was a kid, literally 11 years old or 12 years old or so. Dave Clark 5, Bits and Pieces, Glad All Over. Oh my God. I don't remember the music because this is of the time of the Beatles and the British invasion, like the year after that happened. And all these girls were screaming, but it was great to see the Dave Clark 5. This is my first concert ever, Dave Clark 5. Mike Smith, great lead singer. So there you go. This is a mono copy, original mono on Epic Records. Okay. Show a record that you listened to most when you were 17. I'm showing several because that's how I roll. I'm an overachiever when it comes to the vinyl community. 1971. A lot of great records came out in 1971, but here are just 3 that literally I still play to this day over and over again, and they're fantastic records. So come on, I got to show a Beatle record. So Imagine, the second song-based solo album by John Lennon. You all know it, 1971, Imagine, No Possessions. Great record, great record. One of the greatest zipper records, Sticky Fingers. The Rolling Stones, what a great record. Rolling Stones, oh my God, like you can tell I was 17 when I got this record. I wrote my name on it like several times. I'm not sure what that was about. There are a handful of records I own that I wrote my name on when I would bring to people's houses. Fantastic. This is an original copy from 1971 with the fantastic sort of projectile. I want to say projectile. You know what that is. Covered by Andy Warhol, the great pop artist. And I think this is Joe DeLisandro, who was part of the Andy Warhol, was a protege and actor in the whole Andy Warhol scene. But what a great record this is. Opens up with Bitch. Is Bitch the first song? I think so, right? Brown Sugar. Oh, I was wrong. Isn't Bitch on here? Bitch opens up side 2. What a great record. One of the great rock and roll records of all time. One of the great Stones record. And when they went to Rolling Stones Records after they left London Records. Great record. Actually, I'm showing 4 records. Another great record, which is an iconic record from 1971, is the Who's Next, produced by Glyn Johns. Of course, this sort of evolved from Pete Townshend's Lighthouse Project and Baba O'Reilly, Bargain, Behind Blue Eyes. But of course, You Won't Get Fooled Again and Baba O'Reilly, the great synthesizer based. This is like an anthem. This is an arena rock classic. Great friggin' record. Every episode or every series of crime, CSI used a song from this album as their lead in. CSI Las Vegas, CSI New York, CSI Poughkeepsie, wherever the CSIs were. Pete Townshend licensed these songs away, but it's still a great record. And one record that to me is amongst my favorite was recorded in San Francisco and I think is a perfect record, and it was in 1971. And it's a record I did play a lot, and this is a record you played a lot in 1971. But this is an incredible record. If I Can Only Remember My Name by David Crosby from Crosby, Stills and Nash, and he was in the Byrds. This is, to me, my favorite of the solo CSN albums that came out right after CSN. And why? Of course, Neil Young's in a separate category. The first Graham Nash album is great. The first Stephen Stills album is great. This is a moody, beautiful record. There is a DVD A 5.1 version of this that sounds fucking amazing. So I play this record all the time. In 1971, a lot of the San Francisco artists of the day were on this record, including members of the Jefferson Airplane, members of the Grateful Dead, Nicky Hopkins on piano. It's a stunningly beautiful record, moody, a bit psychedelic, a bit organic, but really great record. Too bad he got sort of fucked up many years later and after this. But David Crosby's album, If I Can Only Remember My Name, is such a wonderful record on Atlantic Records. Okay, show a record that was an entry point into a genre, an album that was an entry point into a genre. Now, I show this record all the time, but I need to show this because it's like X equals X. Of course, George Harrison turned me onto the sitar from Rubber Soul with the great John Lennon song, I Once Had a Girl, Norwegian Wood. And he used it on several songs, but to me, his ultimate recording with Indian musicians, classical Indian musicians, is the first track of side 2 of this, Within You Without You. I think it's probably one of the most amazing songs on this album, and one of the amazing songs George Harrison ever wrote or recorded. It's a beautiful song. But this led me into Ravi Shankar and Indian music, and it led me to this album that came out, I believe, possibly the same year, 1967. And what's great about this is a hybrid of Indian music and Indian classical music and Western classical music. So it's a combination of the great sitar player Ravi Shankar and the great violin player Yehudi Menuhin. So East meets West. There was 2 different volumes of this. This was a very successful record for Angel Records, which was a subsidiary of Capitol Records. It was their classical division, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous record. Yehudi Menuhin, Ravi Shankar, West meets East. Huge seller, one of the biggest sellers of classical music at the time. And I was fortunate enough to see Ravi Shankar 4 or 5 times, including on a George Harrison concert tour. He was on stage and wrote a piece for the Concert for George that I went to at the Royal Albert Hall. I saw him at the Civic Auditorium in San Francisco and one other time in San Francisco. So this was a new genre for me, and I'm a big, big fan of Ravi Shankar and Indian classical music. Okay, here's another question here. The next question is, show a record that is recorded or mixed horribly that you love anyway. I'm going to do a different take on this because it was finally fixed. Bob Dylan. After Bob Dylan did Blood on the Tracks, to me, Blood on the Tracks is one of the most beautifully recorded records in Bob Dylan's catalog. After that, he did this album, Desire. I love this record. It's an amazing record. It's got Hurricane on it, about Hurricane Carter. It's got Isis. It's got One More Cup of Coffee, Romance in Durango, Sarah, beautiful love song to his then wife, Sarah. But I remember when I got this record, I hated the sound. I worked in record stores in the 70s when this came out in 1975, and I put this on, I brought it home, and it just sounded off, and I can't even describe it. I don't know if other people feel the same way. It's an incredible record. It's a very popular record of Dylan's, but and the single, I have this the 45 picture sleeve of Hurricane, which is great, which is actually better than this, but for some reason, I thought this record sounded tinny, a little muddy. It just never sounded right. There was a CD version later on that sounded somewhat better, but I was so disappointed on this record. I never thought it would be a good sounding record. Thought maybe it was recorded that way. But then this came along, this Mobile Fidelity version of Desire. This one came out very limited, 1,000 copies only on super vinyl. What the fuck? And of course, like within 6.5 minutes, it goes out of print, and I just lucked out getting this record. This sounds fabulous. This, all of a sudden, this record redeemed itself. I don't know if it was remastered, it wasn't remixed, but it just made this wonderful record, a record that I loved for so many years, so much better. I mean, you can't find this record now unless you're going to pay up to several $100s, I think, which is really unfortunate because I think this record should be out there for everybody. But the original Columbia, original pressings even, don't sound very good. Now, maybe you like it. Who am I going to judge on that? This is just from my point of view. Of course, everything I say in this video is my point of view. So, of course, yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Bob Dylan. Love Bob Dylan. Show a record that you play to show off your stereo. So, yeah, I think what you're asking us here is show a record that's sort of an audiophile record that sounds great in your stereo. And I picked three different genres, 3 different areas of music. Because sometimes you want some good drums, you want some good rhythms, good productions. Acoustic guitars are nice, and jazz is always nice. So I'm gonna start out with this Music Matters jazz version of something else. This is a Blue Note Music Matters jazz. This is something else, Cannonball Adderley, Miles Davis, Hank Jones, Sam Jones, and Art Blakey. Some consider this the best jazz record ever made. Some people feel it's one of the best Miles Davis records ever made, and the reason it wasn't released as a Miles Davis record is because he wasn't signed to Blue Note. Either way, it's a fantastic record. It's a classical record. one way or another, I think there's a Classic Records or not Classic Records, but a Blue Note Classics version of this coming out anytime now. You need to jump on this because this is one of the best records. If you like Blue Train, if the Coltrane album, if you like Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, you will love this record. I think this is a better record. This is a fantastic record and it sounds amazing. Again, Music Matters Jazz. This is a 33 RPM version of it, but it sounds amazing on my stereo. So this is a record that I would show to anyone to test out my stereo. To go with the acoustic and East meets West again sort of genre, I'm picking A Meeting by the River, Ry Cooder and VM Bhatt. Indian versus Ry Cooder, great guitar player, bottleneck guitar, and VM Bhatt on the Mohan Veena. It's beautiful acoustic stringed instrument. 2-record set. This is an Analog Productions record, and it's stunningly beautiful, beautifully recorded, and it sounds fabulous. So I would definitely showcase this. Going in a little direction, now there's so many MoFi records you could pick, and audiophile records, but I'm going to go one a little out of the box. I think is out of the box, and I think it's a record that everyone should check out. I'm a huge Procol Harum fan, and I would say a Salty Dog. This is tied with as my favorite all-time album by Procol Harum. Quite rightly so. Their second album, it was my favorite. This grew on me over the years. It's more of a moody record. This version of it that came out several years ago, 3-4 years ago on Mobile Fidelity, is a stunningly beautiful record. Some of this record is quiet. It's moody. It's got Gary Booker's amazing white, blue-eyed soul vocals, and Robin Trower on guitar, Keith Reed the words, and it's just amazing. Matthew Fisher's great organ player. You know them from, of course, A Wider Shade of Pale, but this is probably their best album, and this Mobile Fidelity version of it sounds awesome. So I would say this and the other two are these great records that I would include to showcase my stereo. And the last question, tell me a future upgrade you want to make to your turntable, stereo, or listening space. Those of you who've seen my rig upstairs, I like where I am right now. I'm not someone who's a serial upgrader. I have friends that are, and I'm not against that at all. I think I have a mid-level system. Some would consider it higher end, but compared to some systems, it's not high end, but it's really good, solid. My amplifier is a 2003 or 4 Rotel integrated surround amplifier. And what I'd like to do is eventually, it's been a great power horse, so I've had it for what, 19 years now, and it's been great. I had it serviced once, and I had it be reconditioned at one point, and all these mechanical shit you don't give a shit about. But I would prefer, and I would like to upgrade my amp and make it a true, just powerful stereo 2-channel amplifier only. I'd then like to have a stereo bypass for a 5.1, because I do like surround for movies only. I don't really play, even though I have several DVDs and packages that have DVDs that have surround music. I don't listen to surround in music, but I do like movies and surround with center channel sound. So I would like a theater bypass, separate amp for audio, for motion pictures, for movies, but have a true dedicated stereo amp. So that would be my preferred upgrade. So that's it. That's all there is. Michael, congratulations, 5,000 plus. Keep that oboe. Got those little reeds. I mean, I remember one of my first instruments was the clarinet. It was bad enough with a reed like that, but you got that little fucking little thing to suck on. Sorry, I shouldn't go there. Anyway, congratulations, Michael. I think all of you who don't subscribe to Poetry on Plastic, Michael's channel, go check it out because he has some great videos. He did a great video that I cited recently, 25 classical albums basically to get you into classical music. So if you don't know much about classical music, check out that video on his channel because it's superb. And it gives you sort of a taste of what to get into and not pretentious, snooty classical music. It's just really wonderful. So, Michael, thank you very much for hosting this contest, and congratulations on 5,000 plus. Mazzy loves you and all the Michaels on the vinyl community. Take care.